An NFL insider has revealed two sneaky targets for the New York Jets, and we gotta break them down. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Jets Football 365. If you're a New York Jet fan, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out a ton. But let's jump right into the video for today. It's no secret. Everyone watching the New York Jets can see it. We need defense, and we need more pass rush. Everyone is talking about Breece being the number one target with our second overall draft pick, and they're right. According to pretty much everyone, he is the top edge rusher in the draft, but one insider from Pro Football Focus is pointing out a different target for the New York Jets to attack at that exact same position with that exact same second overall draft pick. Coming from Gordon McGinnis, a writer for Pro Football Focus, who writes, with Dante Moore off the board, the most logical route would be to target one of the top defensive players in the draft. David Bailey's 81 quarterback pressures in 2025 led all FBS edge defenders. And while he's not refined as a prospect as Penn State's Abdul Carter was last year, he is more than good enough as a pass rusher to be worthy of a top 5 selection. David Bailye is an edge rusher coming from Texas Tech. They unfortunately lost. Well, unfortunately for them, but they lost in the second round to the Oregon Ducks, but they were a fantastic defense all season. And even in that game, they were also a top defense, made it really tough on Dante Moore to move the football at all during that game, despite what that final score may have showed. But David Bailye is also a top guy, going to be drafted in the top 10, going to be a high-level edge rusher in the NFL draft. We have to remember, Breece isn't the only name that the New York Jets are looking at. There are more very, very talented defensive ends at that position who will be in the NFL draft and going to be drafted very highly that we need to make sure that we are taking a very close look at so we understand the pros and cons of all these players. Looking at some of the pros from David Bailye, according to Bleacher Report, impressive athlete who is quick-twitched and has very smooth, easy change of direction to beat offensive linemen across faces. Beating a offensive lineman across their face pretty much means, you start on one side of them, and then the way you beat them, you end up on the other side of them. So think if you are a defensive lineman lined up against our left tackle, you would start pass rushing all the way to the quarterback's left, your right, to get to the outside shoulder of that tackle. And then you pull some sort of quick move that cuts you back inside, and you now get on the inside shoulder of the tackle, and that gives you a better inside path to go rush after the quarterback. That's what beating an offensive lineman across their face means, and that is something that is like one of the number one things you're taught as an offensive lineman. Don't let the defender do that to you. So it's great to see that David Bailye is able to expose technical flaws in offensive linemen that he is facing. Good acceleration off the line of scrimmage to win around the end with speed. Not a whole lot of technical stuff there. Just beat the guy around the outside. David Bailye has the speed, and we're going to pair that with the final point in this post right here. Good bend to corner at the top of the rush. When we talk about bend, when it talks about edge rushers, the smaller you can make yourself, that makes it more difficult for offensive linemen to get their hands on you. What you want to do is you want to bend, aka drop your inside shoulder to make it so the offensive lineman just has less space to grab. So again, let's use the example. We are going up against someone's left tackle. We are playing that defensive end spot. We are going to be lined up to the outside of that left tackle, meaning our left shoulder is lined up on their left shoulder. So we hear the snap, we get up, and then we want to drop. We want to drop at our knees and get low and drop that left shoulder so the lineman can't grab us there. We want him to miss us so we can sneak around him. You'll see the best defensive ends in the league. Like, think about Myles Garrett. He is like 6'5", but when he gets around the edge, it almost looks like he gets parallel to the ground. If you've ever watched the NFL Combine, think about those drills where they have to run around in a circle and there is a towel down and they have to run and drop their inside shoulder and grab the towel. That's demonstrating bend. That's something that elite defensive ends have to do at a high level, and they have to be athletic enough to have the speed while still being able to get low, nice and low, make it tough for those O linemen to make a difference. Next point here, Bailye uses his hands well as a pass rusher, showing quick and active hands to defeat the hands, defeat the man against offensive tackles. That pretty much is talking about how we talk about when the ball is snapped, it is a race between the defensive end and the offensive tackle to get their hands on the inside of the other person. So O-lineman, ball snapped, he wants to get his hands right here on us. We want to defeat his hands, aka don't let him grab us. We want to hand fight him, push the hands off of us so he is not able to control our inside shoulders, and we're able to beat him that way. Hand fighting is very important when it comes to defensive ends and really defensive linemen in general. Think about how Aaron Donald used to do the training with knives when that video went viral a couple of years ago. That's what he was preparing for. He was practicing and training for hand fighting in the NFL. And while doing it with knives may have been just overkill, it was still, left a lasting impression on everyone who saw the video. And it just makes you think about what these guys are doing to make sure their hand fighting is on point. Final point here, shown several pass rush moves that he can win with. Hand swipe, rip, ghost rush, inside spin, and long arm. Not going to break down each and every single pass rushing move here, but it is important that he has a bunch of different moves in his repertoire. There are a ton of defensive linemen who come out into the NFL draft they have the height and the weight, which is what gets them drafted really high because people see those traits and they're athletic, but a lot of the time, maybe I shouldn't say usually, a lot of the time, they only have one pass rush move that they can consistently win with, but that's not David Bailye. Think about a couple of years ago, the Jets had the 13th overall draft pick and we traded for Aaron Rodgers. Part of that trade was we swapped our 13th overall draft pick for the Packers, was it 15th overall, where we took Will McDonald? But at our original slot, 13, the Green Bay Packers selected, Lucas Van Ness, who was a pure power rusher out of Iowa. The only way he could really win was with a bull rush. And in the NFL, he's been okay this year, but it took him a while to get going in the NFL because he only had one pass rush coming out of college. David Bailye, multiple moves, multiple ways to beat his man. That's important because if you only have one move to beat your guy, the tackle knows what's coming. They've seen it on film. They've seen it during that game. They can predict what's coming. If you have a bunch of different moves like the rip, the ghost rush, inside spin, the long arm, if you have all those moves in your repertoire, the offensive lineman does not know what's coming, and therefore they cannot be prepared for it. Now, kind of talked a lot about David Bailye, but we have another pressing need, and that's at the wide receiver position. We talked about Makai Lemon a couple of days ago. We are now talking about a new prospect at that position from Gordon McGinnis again. Denzel Boston could be the perfect partner for Garrett Wilson at wide receiver, coming off a season in which he earned an 89.3 PFF grade against man coverage and caught 76.9% of his contested targets. Denzel Boston is a 6'4" wide receiver coming out of the University of Washington. Another guy who is being highly consistently mocked in the first round. Let's actually see if I have that, which I don't. So, whoops. Consistently mocked in the first round. Just going to have to take my word for it. Right now being mocked at 16 for the New York Jets. And we know we need wide receiver help because when you look at the depth chart for the New York Jets, it's bad. We have Garrett Wilson. We have Adonai Mitchell, who maybe becomes a rotational piece when we put together an actually functioning wide receiver room. Maybe he is the X wide receiver, depending on what other receivers we draft. Denzel Boston would take over that role as the X wide receiver for the New York Jets. Should we draft him in the first round? As a big body, he would be lined up on the line of scrimmage and tasked with beating the press from defenses. Also, he is a guy who can run those deep routes that your X wide receiver would be running, your go routes, your deep posts, your dig routes, stuff like that only the stuff like that. So Denzel Boston, really the complete opposite of Makai Lemon. Makai Lemon is the right now pure slot guy. I imagine you draft him in the first round, you're going to have a bigger role and vision for him down the line, but Denzel Boston is the outside guy. Makai Lemon is the inside guy. Let's take a look at some of the strengths for Denzel Boston coming from NFL Draft Buzz. creates natural separation at the stem with subtle body manipulation and deceptive long stride acceleration that lures corners into a false sense of timing. So, nuanced route runner. He understands some of the smaller, less pronounced moves you need to make when you're running a route in order to sell a cornerback on what move you are either making or not making. Absolute monster in contested catch situations. You love having that out of your 6'4" wide receiver. When you hear contested catches, 6'4", 6'5", you think Mike Evans. I know with the helmet and the high contested catch range, I'm sure a lot of people are going to think about Rome Odunze, who came out in 2024, was drafted 9th overall by the Chicago Bears. He had a pretty bad drop last night. Rome Odunze, you would think, is going to be better in the NFL over the next couple years than he's been, but I would caution people just because of the helmet. They both went to Washington, and because of the contested catch rate, they were both north of 75% in terms of contested catches. That does not make them the same exact player. And don't look at the way Rome Odunze has developed or not developed in the NFL and project that future onto Denzel Boston. Next point here, shows legitimate build-up speed that sneaks up on defenders playing on off coverage. Off coverage is when the defender is not in press and they are like 9 or 10 yards off of the ball. More just subtle body moves made by Denzel Boston to set up corners and bait them into making moves to put themselves in poor guarding position. Thrives in the 15 to 25 yard intermediate range of the field, where his combination of size, body control, and strong hands allow him to dominate valuable real estate on the field. 15, 25 yards, that's exactly where we are running our deep posts. That's where we are running our dig routes. That's where we are running deep out routes. Those are the exact type of wide receiver routes ran by an X receiver. That's what Denzel Boston brings to the table. We know we need an X wide receiver and we need more talent in that wide receiver room. Denzel Boston is a great target for the New York Jets at that position. That's what I got for this video. If you stuck around this long, I appreciate you taking the time to watch the video all the way through. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and go Jets.